Jean Piaget was born on 9 August 1996 and passed on 16 September 1980, aged 84. Before Piaget became a psychologist, he trained in natural history and philosophy. He then undertook postdoctoral training and was hired to standardize psychometric measures for use with French children in 1919, and went on to investigate the hidden side of children's minds. Piaget placed great importance on the education of children and is known worldwide for his theory. Piaget said that cognitive development occurs as a result of an individual's adaptations to the environment. Piaget was mainly interested in the development of problem-solving and logical thinking, and stated that this occurred in 4 stages. The first is the sensory-motor stage, which occurs between newborn and 18 months. The second is the pre-operational stage, which occurs between 18 months and 7 years. The third is the concrete stage. This occurs between 7 and 11 years. And the fourth is the formal operational stage, which occurs from 11 years and into adulthood. These 4 stages are universal between all children. So children typically progress through each of these stages in the same sequence. Let's look at stage 1, the sensory-motor stage. The main features of the sensory-motor stage are using their senses of sight, hearing, taste, touch and smell to understand the world, using their motor movements to move around, and object permanence, which is the ability to know that something exists when it cannot be seen. The second stage is the pre-operational stage. During this stage, a toddler will develop their understanding of language and their ability to speak. The main features of this stage are symbolic thinking. This means that a child can make something stand for something else, so pretending a cardboard box is a playhouse. Another feature is animism, which is assuming that an object has lifelike characteristics. For instance, a teddy can feel sad. The next 2 are egocentrism and the failure to conserve. So let's look at egocentrism. Piaget tested this using the 3 mountains task. He placed 3 model mountains on a table. After walking around the table, the child sat down and a doll was placed at various positions around the table. The child was then given photographs and was asked which photo would be the same as the doll's view. Piaget found that 4- and 5-year-olds thought that the doll's view was exactly the same as theirs. This meant that their thinking was still egocentric. Now let's look at the 4th main feature of the sensory-motor stage. This is the failure to conserve. In 1952, Piaget showed a 4-year-old 2 glasses. On the diagram here they have been labeled A and B. They both contained exactly the same amount of liquid. Glass B was then emptied into glass C. So, although its appearance had changed, the amount of liquid was still the same. However, the 4-year-olds then thought that the long, thin glass contained more liquid than glass A. This meant that 4-year-olds were unable to conserve liquid. Similar experiments were done with a soft, squeezy texture like Play-Doh, and also counters. And Piaget found that the children were also unable to conserve mass and number. He also said that all children will first develop the ability to conserve liquid, and after this, they will then gain the ability to conserve mass and number. Once a child can fully conserve, they will then move into stage 3 of Piaget's theory of cognitive development. This is the concrete operational stage, and occurs between the ages of 7 and 11 years. This stage has 3 main features: decentering, reversibility, and seriation. Decentering is the ability to take into account more than one aspect of a situation at one time. Remember the 3 mountains task? Well, once in this stage, children are no longer egocentric and can understand the view of others. The second feature is reversibility. This means that a child can understand the sequence of events. So a child would know that if you empty glass C back into glass B, it would look exactly how it did originally. And seriation means that children can now think logically. But before this stage, children can only do this with something concrete. For example, if you explain to a 6-year-old that a spotted box was smaller than a striped box, but bigger than a plain one, and then ask them which was the largest, they would not be able to tell you, unless they could see all 3 boxes in front of them. The 4th and final stage is the formal operational stage. There is only one main feature to this stage, and it is abstract thinking. This means being able to solve problems in their head, like the box problem, without having anything concrete in front of them, or math equations. In order to do well in the exam, you will need to be able to evaluate Piaget's theory. One strength of Piaget's theory is the impact it has had on education. His theory has been applied to education for years, and continues to be used to this day. For instance, preschools focus on developing motor skills. They also focus on role play and attempting to develop egocentrism by helping children to understand another's view. Another strength of this theory is that it has provided a framework for continuous research. However, this research has found flaws with Piaget's theory. For example, during the Three Mountains task, Piaget underestimated what children could understand. Piaget was also criticized for using interviews that could not be replicated. Another point is that he said that children develop in stages. However, research suggests that learning is more continuous, rather than clear-cut stages. The next point is social context. Piaget has been criticized for overemphasizing the intellectual development of children and excluding their social and emotional development. He also ignored the impact of social interactions. And the next 2 points of adult intervention and disembedded thinking illustrates this. So to explore the impact of adult intervention, we'll look at a study by McGarrigle and Donaldson in 1974. They created the Naughty Teddy study, which expands on Piaget's research of conservation, and found that if a teddy had appeared to mess up one row of counters, and then placed back into its box for being naughty, the children would know that there was still the same amount of counters when asked by the experimenter. So compared to Piaget's results, more children, age 4 to 6 years old, would give the correct answer with adult intervention. And the last point when evaluating Piaget's theory is disembedded thinking. Hughes was critical of the Three Mountains task. He said that it was too confusing for children to understand, and in 1975, created the policeman dolls study. Hughes devised this study by using 2 intersecting walls, 2 policeman figures and 1 naughty doll. Hughes helped the children to understand the task by placing 1 policeman figure at the end of one of the walls, and then placing the naughty doll in each of the sections in turn, and asking the child whether the policeman could see the doll. Once the child understood the task, the second policeman figure was introduced and placed in various positions. After each time that the policemen were repositioned, the child was asked to place the doll so that they could not be seen by the policeman. Hughes found that 3.5 and 4-year-olds gave 90% correct answers, and even when introducing a third policeman, 4-year-olds still gave 90% correct answers. Although some research has shown that some cognitive abilities are limited by age, this suggests that children develop cognitive abilities at a younger age than what Piaget proposed. But studies need to be developed carefully, and in a way that allow children to fully understand the task that is asked of them. Thank you for watching.